Hey guys, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio. A big thank you to all of you who have been watching my videos in which our conversations are mainly about the Beatles. And I'm having a blast, as you know, interviewing all the different people that I have on my channel. And this time out, our special guest is Bob Berger. You may know him best for being a member of the power pop band, the Weaklings. He's also released many solo albums. And I thought that on the show, which we have him here as our guest, we're going to talk about several things, not just the Weaklings, but also he has a brand new CD out, which I have right here, called The Domino Effect. Actually, I should say the official release date is July 1st. Okay, but you can already pre-order it on Amazon if you want to. And in addition to that, something I really didn't know about Bob until I saw him post this on Facebook was he said that his favorite artist in the world, next to the Beatles, is Elvis Costello. And I figured, hey, that's a great opportunity for me to talk about Elvis Costello's work with Paul McCartney and what his impressions are of that. So we're going to cover all those bases right here on the show. And he's also, by the way, one of the first people to subscribe to my channel, which I haven't forgotten, Bob. Thank you very much. Bob Berger, welcome to Ken Michaels Radio.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's talk first of all about your beginnings in music. We all know that you love the Beatles. Talk about the artists that you loved growing up, where the Beatles fit in, were they always number one? And, you know, if you want to, other music that you're into.
Yeah, well, growing up, for me, there was the Beatles, and then there was everybody else. So, you know, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan as a young kid, and it was a watershed moment in my life, as the same as anybody else, I think my age, a lot of people my age. You saw that and it was like, well, okay, that's what I want to do. You know, so you know, I love a lot of artists, and there's a lot of great songs and songwriters. People always ask me who's your favorite, and it's very difficult to answer, but the Beatles were primarily my root and what got me started, and still my favorite.
There's so many things to talk about where the Beatles are concerned, and that could be a show to itself. But were you most impressed about their, say, songwriting? Was it their musicianship? What was it overall that drew you the most to their music?
You know, I was so young. I don't think I was thinking in those kinds of terms. I remember that when the first time I heard them was on the radio, and I heard "I Want to Hold Your Hand" before the Ed Sullivan Show. And I was just entranced by the, you know, what was hearing on the radio. My mom said, she says, "You like that?" And I said, "Yeah." You know, it was kind of like, so I guess it was just the sound, the songs were great, you know, and then when I saw them on TV, the look, you know, they were just cool, you know, and I, you know, there's a rivalry between the Beatles and the Beach Boys at some level. Then people, you know, toss back and forth, Brian Wilson's genius against, you know, Lennon and McCartney. But to me, the Beatles were just so much cooler because they looked so much cooler. You know, when you saw A Hard Day's Night, it's like, well, you know, these guys are just right in there. They just, you know, they just get it. You know, we weren't wearing striped shirts or anything, you know.
Right.
So.
Overall, I mean, I'm thinking further ahead. When you look back at that catalog, is there one period that impresses you the most, or has influenced you the most, or you just take it all in and love all of it?
I love all of it. You know, the Beatles music changed as I was growing up, and so I was changing with it. You know, and it seemed to, at my age, follow where my head was. So when they first came out, I was, you know, 8 or 9 years old, and it was, you know, very light pop, you know, fun kind of songs. And then it started to get a little more philosophical with, like, you know, Nowhere Man and stuff off Rubber Soul. And my brain was kind of developing at that point. And I was like, okay, they were like kind of going along with my evolution as a human being. And when Sergeant Pepper's came out, I was ready for that. It was like, okay, now we're doing that. Now we're really cool. And like he says in Good Morning, and all the way, all the way to the end.
Was it very easy for you to accept all the changes, even through Sergeant Pepper as a
Yeah, I never had. I always just like, they were the leaders, and so I was going with wherever they were going, but everywhere they went was great. So it wasn't like there were other bands that I listened to that I lost interest in. I mean, when they first came out, I liked the Dave Clark Five as well, but I quickly lost interest in them because they weren't doing anything after a short amount of time, really. And the Beatles just kept evolving, and along with my thinking, and nobody who else has done that? Nobody really.
Yeah. Well, the evolution aspect is a fascinating one, and there are some people who, like I've read, for quite some time, that part of the Monkees' appeal was that they kind of took off where the Beatles were in 1965, 66, for people who didn't really want to go deep into
Right. That's right.
and, the weirder stuff that the Beatles were doing.
Yeah, I remember when Strawberry Fields came out, and some of the kids in my class were like, "Oh, that's just too weird," and I'm like, "No, that's just great." I just loved it. I loved their sound. There was never anything that they did that I didn't like. So that for me, that was it. I mean, the Monkees came out. I watched the Monkees show, and they had good songs. It's, their songs still hold up now, but only a few of them really, and they were all throwbacks to the earlier Beatle period. So, they were kind of almost retro in a way when they came out. The Beatles were gone past that when the Monkees appeared.
Right. So did you find yourself, once the Beatles broke up, gravitating towards Beatlesque bands and power pop bands?
Yeah, I followed and I followed Paul McCartney for a while, but the power pop bands, I loved Badfinger. I loved T-Rex. I loved I still do those sounds, the early 70s aftermath of the Beatles. Great stuff, I mean, I like again, like many other people, the Beatles solo work did not affect me the way their ensemble work did. It just, for whatever reason, maybe it was part of my growing up, or maybe it's just that it wasn't as compelling. But that's, I moved on, and I got into prog, which was which was really, Yes was like the next step of the Beatles to me, because they started out, they're Beatle fans too, they really, and they took the progressive side of the Beatles the next step forward. So I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, that's great what you're saying there, because some people may not think of the Beatles as being progressive, and they always
were. Absolutely. I mean, even if you look at what kind of bass did Chris Squire play? Rickenbacker. Where did he get that idea from? Paul McCartney. And they even covered Every Little Thing on their first or second record. I would forget which one it was.
Right.
But they definitely took the Beatles another step forward, which was great.
Yeah, they also,
not that they were better, they just kept going.
They included Give Peace a Chance and Instant Karma.
That's right, they did.
That in Your Move.
In Your Move, right? Yeah.
So, did you know from watching the Beatles what specific instrument you were going to target? Did you know all along it was going to be guitar? Because you play a lot of instruments on your album.
No, actually, I was a bass player for many years, and I started out on guitar, and we put a band together when I was about 11 or 12. And we didn't have a bass player in the band. Nobody else wanted to play bass. So I took my guitar and I put four bass strings on it, and I played that. And I played, I'm actually left-handed, but I play right-handed, which is kind of crazy because I was a big Paul fan. And my sister taught me my first rudiments in guitar, and she said, "I'm only going to teach you if you'll play right-handed." And so I said, "Okay, I'll play right-handed," but if I looking back on it, I I really should have dug my heels in and say, no, McCartney plays it that way. That's how I'm going to play it.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't, So that's why Glenn gets to be lefty in the Weaklings, because he actually plays left-handed.
Uh-huh.
But the Beatles had two people in the band that were left-handed.
Right.
One that played left-handed, one played right-handed, and so do the Weaklings. So.
All right. You had to copy them.
And it didn't know it, but yes. So I played bass for a long time. I switched to guitar later in life.
Right. Okay. Now this is your fifth studio album?
It is, yes.
Okay. So give us a timeline how the solo music worked and when the Weaklings came into your.
I put my first solo record out in 2003. Then I put another one out in 2006, and then 2007, and then 2012. And I was starting to work on what is now the Domino Effect. And then I joined the Weaklings. And when I joined the Weaklings, I put the whole project on hiatus and just concentrated on the Weaklings project. And we put out. I mean, somebody said, "We haven't put a new album out in 10 years." I said, "Yeah, but I put 5 albums out with the Weaklings, so that ought to count, especially since Glenn and I wrote most of the songs for the Weaklings." So, so I had this thing sitting around. I had just kind of started it. Some of the songs were written. I just barely started recording, and I let it sit. But when COVID came in, I had extra time on my hands, and I decided to finish it. So.
Were there any songs that you wrote for this album that you thought might have worked for the Weaklings? How would you distinguish?
I thought that the only one I thought possibly might have worked for the Weaklings was a song called Here and Now. I thought that one might work for the Weaklings, but I've been playing it in my solo shows, and I just decided to keep it, and we had enough songs for the Weaklings, and it's not like we're hurting for material, so I didn't really I didn't feel bad about keeping that one for myself.
Okay. So when it comes to songwriting, who would you say are your biggest influences as a writer?
Well, definitely Lennon and McCartney are big influences. I'm also, Elvis Costello, as you mentioned, is also a big influence. I'm a big Tom Petty fan, big Steely Dan fan. I try to listen to even newer stuff. Listen to what's going on now to try to get new ideas out of new music, even though it's sometimes challenging to listen to it. But those I can cite those. Bruce Springsteen was an influence. A lot of people really. Todd Rundgren was an influence.
I can hear it in your music, certainly the Lennon McCartney.
Yeah.
There's one particular song. I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way, but when I listen to Impression, that definitely has an Elvis Costello kind of a squeeze vibe to it.
It does. We recorded that, and that's the only song where I used an outside keyboard player. I used Arne Wendt on that song, and he did a fantastic job. When we recorded, when Arne came down to do the session for that song, was right after we had finished putting together the Elvis Costello show. So our heads were in Elvis Costello mode, and I had written the song a few years before, so the song wasn't necessarily Elvis Costello type of a song, but the way the keyboards worked into it really give it that vibe.
Yeah, I definitely hear like an early 80s kind of a sound on that.
But believe it or not, my inspiration for that song was the Beatles song Michelle. And I've never told anybody that before. I was admission here.
Okay.
That what I do sometimes when I'm looking for an idea, sometimes I'll take an idea and I'll turn somebody else's song and I'll turn it around backwards and see what happens. And I took some of the chord changes of Michelle and turned them around backwards. And if you really analyze it, you might be able to figure that out. By the time I'm done with it, you can't really tell what I did, but sometimes it gets me started as well, let's see what happens when I do this, you know. So the chord changes in that song in certain places are Michelle backwards. So that's where it really came from.
Next time I listen, I'm going to be putting that thought in my head to try to.
Yeah.
But
You may have a tough time hearing it, but it is the truth.
well, you know, it comes across as being something completely original.
Yeah, well,
what a really good artist.
you know, the Beatles did the same thing. They you know, nicked things, and then but it didn't sound like what they you know, took from. They put enough of their own stamp on it that you don't it doesn't register that way. You know, I mean, the famous bass line from I Saw Her Standing There is, you know, it's Chuck Berry's bass line, you know, so
Right.
you know.
I'm talking about you. That's where you got it from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Your album, you know, it has all the hallmarks of a great pop album. You know,
Thanks.
great hooks, great harmonies. I love the guitar work here, especially the lead guitar work. It's Jimmy Leahy.
Jimmy Leahy, yeah, he's a genius.
Yeah, and sometimes there's even dual lead.
There are some dual leads, yeah. I played a few leads on there. The opening song, Suicide King, I actually played the lower slide part, lead part, and then Jimmy just harmonized to it.
Okay.
So, but the solo is his. I couldn't touch that solo. He's what he plays is pretty amazing. But
yeah, I love all the songs really here. Merely Beautiful has double lead guitar work, right? There's a really nice guitar solo in the middle that's very George Harrison-esque.
yeah, that's all Jimmy. Yeah,
That's you?
that's all Jimmy. Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy.
The only actual lead that I played on the album was the solo for Here and Now.
Okay.
I did that solo.
All right. You've also got John Rajavi on the album.
John Rajavi's in there. Yep. John was really helpful, just as another set of ears, listening to the mixes and, you know, commenting and so forth. So, and then he decided he wanted to play. He had some guitar ideas. So actually, he played the rhythm guitar on Here and Now. I don't think Jimmy's on that song. That's the only song Jimmy's not on that song. So that's me and John.
Okay. One song that I love a lot is the One-Eyed Jack, which kind of has a Tom Petty like breakdown feel.
Yeah, you know, people say that. I wasn't really thinking about breakdown on that song. I was actually thinking about a Steely Dan tune. But it does, it's in the same key as breakdown, and it does have the similar the rhythm structure on the bottom end is it's not exactly the same, but it's similar. I have a chromatic note stuck in between the A, you know, it's A G sharp G, whereas Tom Petty's is just A G. So, but that's really the end of the similarity of that song with the Tom Petty song. So.
All right, well, it's just what my ears hear anyway.
No, I other people have said it too, so I get it.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Band, again, really nice lead guitar work in there. And there's a middle bit that sounds like Won't Get Fooled Again.
Which part? Oh, when it breaks down there?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I wasn't thinking about Won't Get Fooled Again. That was actually a Todd Rundgren reference to Couldn't I Just Tell You?
Okay. Now I'll have to think. I love that song, so now I have to.
Yeah, and that song's got the other that thing in that song is there's an utter theft in that song. I mean, a complete theft. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because you haven't said it to me. So I'll just tell you that there's something that's really blatantly stolen. So.
It could just very well be from getting used to the Weaklings stuff where I hear riffs that you're borrowing from the Beatles. I'm always thinking maybe you're trying to, you know, steal something.
It's a little more than that. It's a little more than that.
But so what are the plans with the new album? Is there a specific song that shows it as a single?
Yeah, they really want to push Pain in the Ass as a single. And that's not, I'm allowed to say that, right? I mean, it's
yeah, you're out.
Yeah, I actually I was on a radio show last week, and I played the song live on the radio. And
Yeah.
I cleared it with the DJ ahead of time. I says, it's okay to say ass, right? Yeah, ass is okay.
Right.
But there are, I used there's another word, I used BS in there, and they had to bleep me out when I said that. So, but anyway, that's the song they want to push.
Okay. I really hope it does well. I don't know if that would be a problem with some stations. Hey,
Who knows?
that's
Could be.
mild compared to what I hear on the radio. So.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's, if you listen to any rap song, it's like, you're kidding me. So they, if they have to, bleep out something here and there, so what?
Okay. Are there any videos being planned?
We're gonna do a video for that song. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be doing the video in a little club in New Jersey in July 12th.
Okay. All right, very good. And I saw on Amazon you can pre-order it on CD on an MP3. Any hopes for vinyl?
I don't have any plans to do vinyl at this time, no.
Hmm.
And we'll see. I mean, if I get, if I get a lot of interest in sales, then maybe we'll go with vinyl. We'll see what happens. It's an expensive thing to do, and if you're not, I got enough vinyl in my house that I don't need to have 500 copies of that sitting around. So
I know. Well, it's been making some sort of comeback in the last.
I know for sure it did, and it sounds great. It sounds great.
And some people just swear by it and only want to listen to vinyl. So
yeah,
I ask, for them.
Sure.
But really love the album, and I wish you much luck with it. If you love power pop, and you like well-constructed songs with great hooks, really good harmonies, this is the one to get right now, the Domino Effect. So since we mentioned the Weaklings, I thought I'd bring up Weaklings 3.
Yeah.
Which I listened to quite a lot in the car. And, it's incredible stuff. I wanted to comment about a few of the songs on here.
Sure.
But for people who still aren't, there may be some people not familiar with the Weaklings. You record a combination of original material and for your other albums, like these right here.
Yep.
First one, Studio 2, referring, of course, where you recorded the album.
Right.
Studio 2. And you also recorded this album at Abbey Road, too.
We did. Yes. Not all of it.
Okay. Well, you do original songs, and you've also covered quite a lot of Beatles songs. But what's most impressive is that the material you've covered from the Beatles, most of them are more of the obscure, songs they wrote for other people.
Yeah. And even the songs that are on Studio 2 were taken from the 1960 rehearsal demo that they did. They didn't write for anybody. They were just fooling around. So we were looking for something interesting and different to do with the Beatles. Well, they didn't record those songs. Let's see what we can do with them.
The interesting thing about those songs is that there's certain bands like Apple Jam from Seattle, and they will do the songs that Lennon and McCartney gave away to other people.
Yeah, they did. They did an album similar to what we did with our first album, but they never did those songs.
That's what's really interesting about it. You Must Write is one of the songs.
That one came out good.
Yeah, they came out great. And Some Days. So songs that really weren't finished by the Beatles, and yet you did your own arrangement as if
we did. With I think it was with 101 is 2.
Okay.
The original of 101 and 1 is 2 doesn't have a bridge. And the song is a little bit one-dimensional, I think, for that reason. And when we looked at it, we took one of the verses. We didn't write any more lyrics with it. We took one of the verses and just cast it with different chords to make it into a bridge. The Byrds did that with the Bob Dylan song, I Just Want to Be Friends with You. They did the same thing. They took one of Dylan's verses and they just put different chords to it and made it into a bridge, which I thought made it. Because Dylan tends to write verse, 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 song over. And which is okay. He's great, and the lyrics are so great that that's fine. But as a pop songwriter, that can get dull. So
a lot of folk songs are just verses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
No, but definitely check out these especially these two songs, You Must Write and Some Days, and you also included Because I Know You Love Me So from the Get Back Let It Be sessions, which surprisingly didn't end up on the Let It Be box set.
Yeah, we were happy about that.
You were happy about that?
Sure, because now we have it.
Okay. Let It Be Naked though.
Yeah, it's on that. It is on the Naked record.
Yeah, that little disc that came with it.
Yeah.
But on the Weaklings 3, the opening cut, I Want You Again, there's a reference to A Hard Day's Night, but there's one other thing that I found interesting, and that's the way the song ends. It ends like Baby Blue.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
That's a quote. That's a definite quote.
Uh-huh. But it's great when you're hearing this stuff for the first time and you might think, I've heard that before. Where have I heard that?
Well, we do that. We do that starting on the first record. We call those Easter eggs.
Uh-huh.
And we pepper them throughout the songs. We'll say, well, here's a little bit from this Beatles song, usually Beatles songs, not always, sometimes from other bands. And we'll just put it in, and people will say, oh, they pick your ear up. They say, I know what that is. What was that? If you listen to which one of the Beatles songs we did on the first album, That Means a Lot.
Yep.
And there's a turnaround between the verses that we took from If I Fell. So you've got a little bit of If I Fell stuck in there. Yeah. We took a little bit of I Want to Hold Your Hand is in our song Little Tease. So we would, like McCartney said, we would nick little things, you know.
It's almost kind of Ruddles-ish in a way.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit for sure. But I Want You Again is also the title is taken from the John Lennon song I Want You, She's So Heavy. So this is I Want You Again. Right.
Clever stuff. Yeah. In the moment, you have guitar lines that are like Enya Burke Can Sing.
Yeah, it's especially from the demo that's on the anthology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah. I
just love how you insert all that stuff and incorporate it into the songs. 1,000 Miles Away, there's a reference to This Bird Has Flown.
Yeah, there's another Beatle reference I'll let you find in the lyrics.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to search for that.
Yeah, there's another less obvious one in there.
Okay,
but it's a quote.
Okay,
so
I'm making a note of this. I don't want to miss this.
we wanted to give out prizes to anybody who could find all the Easter eggs, and we've never run the contest, but I always wanted to. How many can you find?
I'm going to have to list it even more carefully. I thought I cut most of it. Running Away ends with You Become Naked.
Yep.
I love that. I Got the Love. There's a reference to Come Together.
Yeah, there's another reference in that one too. The opening of it is a reference.
All right. You're giving me a lot of homework here, Bob. Okay. 765, there's a reference to Helter Skelter, which is coming down fast.
Right.
Here comes Sergeant Major.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff that you throw into these songs. And
it's fun, they're little inspirations. They're things that inspired us, and why not? So.
Yeah. And I must say I've enjoyed seeing you guys in concert.
Oh, thanks.
I've been to Daryl's house, which is one of my favorite places to see anybody.
Yeah.
The sound quality there, the mix is so good in that.
Pete Moshe who's the Daryl Hall's sound guy, does all the sound there, the mixing, and he's great guy too.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, you covered Baby You're a Rich Man on
Right.
Weeklings 3. How come you picked that one? I mean,
We really liked the song. We thought we could do something with it. There's another lift in that one. Uh, um, that it's out of context. Some people get it, most people don't. There's another Beatles song mixed in with that that you may not have noticed. I'll tell you. I'm trying not to tell you too much. I think you want to go do it. Go look for it yourself.
okay. It's much more fun when you can discover it yourself.
Yeah.
And you also had Peter Noon.
We did. That was great.
How did that work out? How did you get Peter to help out on Friday on My Mind, the cover?
Gem Records put it together. And then Peter, have you ever seen the video for that?
No, I haven't actually.
Check out the Weaklings video. It's a really good video. And Peter, Peter's in the video, but he did everything in LA, and we did everything on New Jersey. So, but you can't. The video makes it appear as though we're like together. It's pretty cool. And then we did a perform with him. We met with him up in New York and took some pictures, and then we performed with him. I guess it was down in Maryland, and he sang the song with us, which was a lot of fun. Because when we do it live, Glenn sings it. So,
Okay. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Peter Noon I've seen many times in concert because he's always coming around. And
I thought he was really impressive, quite frankly, when he did Friday in My Mind, because it didn't sound like a Peter Noon, like it would be a song for him to do. It's not, it ain't Henry VIII, but I thought he killed it. I thought he was great on it.
I agree with you. And his voice has held up so well.
Great. He's great. He looks great. He sounds great,
I concern myself with all my favorite veteran performers and how well they sing. And Peter, because, well, except for COVID, he's always been on the road, and
yeah.
Great shape.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something, he's a funny guy. He's really funny. He's got a sense of humor that quick, he'll crack you up just hanging out with him. He's really funny.
I like to hang out with him. I've always seen him on stage, and I've seen the shticks that he's done.
Yeah. No, but he's genuinely funny. He's genuinely a funny guy. It's like, and not like Joe Pesci. I mean, he's really funny. So. And Joe Pesci says, "So you think I'm fine by a clown?" No, it's not like that.
No, but really, Peter, when you see him on stage, he does a lot of imitations, and he does them all pretty well.
Yeah.
Some of the same ones for years and years. Mick Jagger and Johnny Cash and people like that. So definitely go check out Peter Noon because he's still got it.
Yeah.
Before we move on and talk about Elvis Costello, I want to make sure, because it's very easy for me to forget these things. There's some concerts the Weaklings are doing that I've written down here in case any of you want to check them out. We're recording this on June the 22nd. It's going up the 22nd, but actually tomorrow you're doing a free show.
We are in Freehold, New Jersey.
The Downtown Freehold Concert Series that starts at 7:30.
Yep.
You're also playing at Pier Village in Long Branch. That's a free show.
Yes.
That's on July the 14th at 7 p.m.
You
got a show at City Winery. This is the new one, which I just saw Gilbert O'Sullivan. Beautiful.
Yeah. Nice venue. Really nice.
Yeah, that's July the 21st, 7:30. And at the Beacon Theater in New York City on August the 6th at 8 p.m.
Yep.
Okay. Plenty of opportunities there if you're on the East Coast to see the Weaklings live.
Yep.
All right. So as I had said before, I had found out on Facebook that Elvis Costello is your favorite artist next to the Beatles. And you said you do an Elvis Costello show. You have it.
Yeah, I did it. I did. And I've actually only performed it twice. And I don't know if you know this, I've had some health issues the past year.
I was going to say that towards the end.
And and we were doing the Elvis Costello show at the Vocal Theater in Red Bank, And I got about 2/3 of the way through the show, and then I had a heart attack. And and I, it was really weird. I was like feeling kind of funny. I felt fine all day. And when I got on stage to play, I started feeling a little weird. And I was like, oh, I just got those jitters or something. I didn't know what it was. But it kept getting worse and worse. And finally, I just excused myself from the stage, says, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I have to leave the stage. And went back to the dressing room, had a heart attack. They hauled me off to the hospital and saved my life. So that was, it was great. I mean, it was a good thing, obviously. I was lucky that I was where I was at the time that I was.
Could they explain to you what caused it?
No, because they looked at me and they said, well, they went through all the risk factors for having a heart attack, weight, smoking, diabetes, family history, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They said, you don't have any of those. So it was just a fluke. It was just a piece of plaque breaks off and lodges itself in your widowmaker artery and you go down. But luckily, like I said, I was close to the hospital. My manager, Tony Palagrossi, got into action immediately, got the EMTs there. I was on the operating table in less than an hour. And they put a stent in. I was awake the whole time. I never lost consciousness. As soon as they put the stent in, like instantly the symptoms went away. Amazing.
That was
Totally
a miracle that everything was taken care of so quickly. And
yeah. So that's my story with the Elvis Costello show, is it gave me a damn heart attack. But I love the show. I got a couple of videos from that show, which I'm going to post on my YouTube channel at some point. But the band sounded great. Two Weaklings besides me were in it. John Rajavi was in it, and Joe Belia. Arna Wendt, the keyboard player we just discussed, did all the keyboards. Right. I was really, really proud of the show. It was, all Elvis's well-known songs, plus some deeper cuts, plus, the McCartney. But we did both McCartney songs, Veronica and the ballad. I'm trying to think of the name of it right now.
One or two. Not That Day Is Done.
Which
So
one?
Like Candy.
So Like Candy. What a great song. What a great song. Yeah. So great. So those, I'd never done So Like Candy before, so that was great. I believe I made it through that one before I had to leave stage. Pretty sure. So
okay. So what is it about Elvis in particular? Why you love his music so much?
Yeah, it's just this, it's the songwriting. He's a real genius with lyrics, and I'm a lyric guy for sure. So he inspired me. That you can kind of, one of the guys said, you can do this with lyrics. This is something you can do. And I picked up on that. And so I consider it an influence. And just have you listened to his most recent record, Boy Named If?
I've heard the single.
Well, that's like listen to the whole record. Every song on the record is great. Mm-hmm. It's I say it's as good as any of his classic records. It's as good as Armed Forces, as good as Get Happy. It's like it's just phenomenal. Songs are phenomenal. So definitely check out the rest of the record. You probably heard what Hurt. Magnificent Hurt was one you probably heard, right?
Right.
Yeah. The opening's cut, which is also a single, I believe. Farewell, okay, it's just great. It's just great stuff,
Okay. I definitely will. One of the great things about YouTube these days is you don't even have to go and buy the album.
I know. I have a Spotify subscription, and so it's like, so I have every record in the world. Right. And just dial it up and I can listen to it. They had the free Spotify, but I pay the $10 a month because it's a bargain. I used to spend a lot more than that on albums back in the day. Every month I'd be buying albums. So I feel like everybody should pay. So
I prefer physical format anyway. I still would rather buy a
Yeah,
CD, take it in the car with me. I still have a CD player in the car.
yeah, I do too. I do too. But I honestly, I don't use it that much. I just use I use my phone, Bluetooth, and get an album up on Spotify and just play it on through the system.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When it comes to Elvis's music, do you prefer the early years? Is there any preference that you have, or because he's so versatile, he's put out so
Yeah,
many
I'll
styles.
tell you, the you know, Glenn's a big fan of the Burt Bacharach stuff.
Oh yeah.
Um, I'm not. I mean, I like it okay, and I like Burt Bacharach, and I think Elvis got too just too croony with the way his vocal approach, the heavy vibrato and all that. I mean, the first like 6 albums I love, and then this most recent one I love,
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I've listened to it all, but you know, the earlier stuff was, he was it was better for me, just more of where my head was at, and the new one, same thing. It's kind of where I can listen to the new record and it's like, okay, I want to write a song like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the touchstone for me. If I hear a record and I say, oh, well, I want to do something like that, just like seeing the Beatles back well, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. That's my criterion for deciding whether it's good or not, whether I want to copy
Uh-huh.
it.
Yeah. Well, Elvis is somewhat, I don't know his entire catalog, but I've been impressed with what he's pulled off through the years. Because he's done
Absolutely.
so many different styles of music, and I love the early period, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I love his band. The bands
And
he's
I'm the same with Tom Petty, actually.
yeah.
I feel the same way about Tom Petty, really.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
People have said they hear the Petty influence on my record. So
I hear a little, but I was going into your album trying to think Elvis Costello with you.
oh yeah. Well, impression definitely is Elvis Costello, but again, it wasn't my intent when I wrote the song at all. Yeah.
So tell me what you thought of the collaboration between Paul and Elvis. Were you pleased with it? Do you think they really
Yeah.
work well together?
Um, I when they did it, people were likening it to, Elvis taking a John Lennon role in writing with Paul McCartney, and I don't think it did that. I don't think it did that. I don't. They didn't have that magic. Um, they came up with great songs, and I love it. Okay, I'm not being critical, but I think expectations were, oh well, Elvis is kind of acerbic and edgy, and that'll be good for McCartney in the way that Lennon was. But I really don't think that. I don't think it really came out like that. That's my feeling. Do I like it? Yes. Do I think it's the Beatles? No.
You can't just compare everything to the Beatles.
Sure you can. Sure you can. Yeah.
You're
That's
always
like
going to fall short then.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. You got a measuring stick, right? So, the closer you get up on the Beatles scale, the better you're doing. So,
Okay. I know that personally, you know, Paul has said a couple of times, Denny Lane is no John Lennon, Stevie Wonder is no John Lennon, Michael Jackson is no John Lennon. Whether it's true or not, these are really talented people that he's working
yeah, I think that's an unfair thing to say,
with.
actually. I mean, no, they're not John Lennon, but then John Lennon is not Stevie Wonder either. I mean, Stevie Wonder is probably one of the greatest musical geniuses of our time. I mean, just his ability to play, the harmonica playing and drumming and everything, keyboards and everything else, and his voice. I mean, so I don't think it's a good idea to draw a comparison between John Lennon and Stevie Wonder or any number of other people. I mean, when I talk about the Beatles being a measuring stick, I'm talking about songwriting and I'm talking about impact. I mean, Stevie Wonder covered "We Can Work It Out."
Sure.
The Beatles didn't cover Stevie Wonder. What does that say? A little bit. It says something.
Hmm.
But I don't compare. But I don't think I think it's fair to make a comparison between John Lennon and Stevie Wonder. I don't think that's right.
Right. So a song like My Brave Face, which I thought was great,
It's
a
a great
great
song.
song,
Yeah,
really intelligent lyrics,
yeah.
I mean, I thought that was a very strong single for Paul.
It was. It was. Yeah, I don't think it was a huge hit like like a Beatles song, but and between Lennon and McCartney, Lennon always gets the rep of being the brainy one, but McCartney is a smart guy, really smart guy. I mean, his lyrics are great too. His music is complex, and Martha, My Dear, it's like his music is more in a lot of ways deeper than Lennon's is, even though he gets the reputation of being the pretty boy and all that. That's not really fair either.
How do you figure that? I'm just curious. How is his music deeper than John's?
It's much more harmonically complex.
So you're talking musically, not lyrically.
Not lyrically, no. But I mean, no, I wouldn't say his lyrics are more deep than Lennon's. I wouldn't say that, but musically, I think sometimes he goes deeper. But then there's I'm the Walrus, which is pretty darn deep. So it's difficult to make generalizations like that.
Right. So much of McCartney's music is optimistic and happy and positive.
Yeah, and he gets a bad rap for that.
I'm not giving him a bad rap, but then you've got songs that Elvis Costello wrote with him where you hear the sad side in the lyrics.
Yeah.
My Brave Face. And
Yeah.
That Day Is Done. What a mournful song that is.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so I agree with you. I mean, I think the combination was nice, and it did give him another dimension, which is great.
and
I'm not saying that you said McCartney's a pretty boy. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm just saying that critics tend to, especially after he went solo, that there were some things, the London Town record that was pretty lightweight, so it's tough. It's tough to sustain greatness. Who can do that?
Well, I'm one of the biggest fans you'll ever find of their solo work. So, yeah, but I do think that I understand how people have this perception of Paul being Mr. Positive and thumbs up and, in a lot of his songs, but he's also the same guy that wrote She's Leaving Home.
Absolutely. Eleanor Rigby.
Long and Winding Road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some
of his best work are sad songs.
I agree.
Yeah. But I've been really impressed, just to tell you, with the work that Paul and Elvis did together. And I kind of wish that they would do more, because even still, the melodies always shine with McCartney, no matter what, no matter who he works with. And when I'm hearing not just My Brave Face, I love That Day Is Done. That's very I don't know, gospel-y to me in a Let It Be kind of way. I love The Lovers That Never Were.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing song to me anyway, and what Paul was doing vocally.
Yeah.
What I also find interesting about Paul and Elvis is that it's a lot of songs they wrote that for some reason are in 3/4 time, 3/4 time. And I don't know why that is.
They probably don't know why that is. They probably that's what hit them. When we worked out So Like Candy, that was an interesting exercise for me, because when I got really deep into it, I could kind of hear and tell, oh, well, that Paul wrote that part, Elvis wrote that part. You can kind of parse it out, and not 100%, but you can see which way each part is leaning, and so it's interesting to see how that came together.
Right.
Whereas with a lot of the Lennon and McCartney songs, it's that McCartney wrote the verse and Lennon wrote the bridge, like in We Can Work It Out.
Mm-hmm.
And the earlier stuff, it's hard to tell anything because they really were writing together. But later on, it's pretty clear who wrote what. And with the Elvis thing, it's more mixed, definitely more mixed. But if you listen carefully, you can parse it out.
I tried.
Veronica, when you take Veronica, the chorus is McCartney. The chord changes are McCartney chord changes for sure.
Okay. I try to look at the lyrics and try to figure out which is an Elvis lyric and which is a Paul lyric, and it's not always easy.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time doing that.
Yeah.
I would think that'd be tough.
Yeah. Did you get to listen to, it was bootlegged for years, but the demos that Paul and Elvis made together on acoustic guitar?
I listened to a little bit. Yeah. I'm aware of it. Yeah.
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 What did you think of it?
It's great. I like it. In some respects better, right? Because you get to really get closer to the bone.
And they sound so good together.
They sound so good, right?
And on their own studio albums, they didn't harmonize.
Yeah,
For one or two, they did a duet there.
Yeah, there was a part. I think it was again like Candy, where I swore it was McCartney singing on it. And I got into a discussion with John Marjavi, and he says, no, he says, that's Elvis copying McCartney. And when I listen really closely, you can hear it. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. He's trying to cop McCartney's sound, and he did a really good job of it, but it is Elvis.
Oh, he could pull it off, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's a few songs on there with the acoustic demos that they didn't release on their studio album.
Right.
I think those are really strong. 20 Fine Fingers.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, I don't know.
I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that whole demo thing, and I'm going to listen to it after we get off this call. So I'm gonna re-listen to that. So I need to give that more of a treatment.
You listen to that, I'll listen to Weaklings 3. Trying to figure out the other Beatles references in here or where you took from them. But yeah, okay. So this has been great, Bob, hanging out with you.
Yes, thanks, Ken.
I would advise everyone to take a look at the description box because there'll be a lot of links there if you want to purchase the brand new CD, The Domino Effect, which, as I said, due out July the 1st, available on CD and MP3. Also, the Weaklings website, your own website.
Yes.
Your Facebook page as well. I think that's about it. The Gems Facebook page.
Sure.
The record company that put out the Weaklings and your new CD.
And my new CD.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's great hanging out with you. And, this channel is your home anytime you want it.
Pleasure.
Bring on other Weaklings.
Look forward to next time.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bob. And thanks to all of you for watching.
Thanks, Ken.